Marhaban. Welcome. Welcome to SeaWorld Research and Rescue Center. I am Dr. Elise Marquis, and I hope you had all great Eid celebrations and that you and your family and your homes didn't have too much damages due to the weather this week. But I'm very glad that you were able to come all the way here on Yas Island to listen to wonderful speakers talking about a wonderful subject once again. So many thanks for attending this Science Talk event. As you know, this series of Science Talks at the Center is developed in partnership with the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi, the Emirates Natural History Group Abu Dhabi, the Natural History Museum Abu Dhabi, and Nautica Environmental Associates. And this specific event has been prepared in tight collaboration with Environment Agency Abu Dhabi and Worldwide Zoo Consultants. So thanks all for your help and your support. In the Emirates, we do talk a lot about scrap buildings, beautiful architectures, and giga projects. But I'm sure I'm not the only one here thinking that we do not talk enough about the treasures inhabiting our natural environment. And dugongs are definitely part of these treasures. Actually, I do think there are so many reasons to qualify dugongs as national treasures. But I'm sure we'll hear all those reasons tonight with our speakers. And at the end of the event, I hope that you will join me thinking that we should celebrate loud and clear across the country and here in Abu Dhabi especially, their presence in our waters. So I'm also really looking forward tonight to be able to sharing with you the incredible story of Malquot. And if you haven't met him yet, I would encourage you to go. He's just next door in SeaWorld Abu Dhabi, and you will see he's a wonderful character. Anyway, to extensively talk about dugongs, we have an impressive lineup of speakers from EAD, from the Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species, and from Worldwide Zoo Consultants, as well as from our own team, the SeaWorld Research and Rescue. Just remember, keep all your questions, and I'm sure you'll have a lot, to the end. We'll take the time to answer your question, but this will be at the end of the session. And please keep your phone quiet and so on. Without further ado, let me welcome Metha Al-Ameli on stage. Before you just come here, I just want to introduce Metha to everyone. Because if you don't know Metha, she's an incredible, it's true, Emirati scientist and conservationist. A character that makes everything so easy and that makes sense and things that's happening. So I hope all the young ladies here in the audience will go back tonight thinking, I want to be like Metha when I'm older. I want to be like you when I'm older. Metha is currently serving as the head of the Marine Biodiversity Assessment and Conservation section within the terrestrial and marine biodiversity sector of the Environment Agency. And as if it was not enough, she's also carrying out a PhD thesis study. And guess what? It's on dugongs. So come here, dugong. Metha, come here.
Yes, okay. Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And I'd just like to thank you all for making it today. I know everyone is running around, something is leaking, something is damaged. But thank you for taking your time and joining us today. I'd also like to thank SeaWorld for hosting this amazing event. Keep in mind that this is one of a series where Elise is introducing us to amazing scientists every month. And encourage all of you to join at least every month for these talks. And to be honest, every talk is better than the other. Starting from the first talk, it was an exciting one. I'll talk about dugongs and introduce you to dugongs today before we take you into an amazing journey that we had with Malquot. So, a brief introduction to dugongs. What are dugongs? Dugongs are air-breathing marine mammals. Scientifically, they're called dugong, dugon. And if you know scientific names, you would know that this is the most boring scientific name out there. Because every scientific name is very complicated, except when it comes to a dugong. And it just shows you what a dugong is. It's a very simple marine mammal that just wants to eat seagrass and bee. They could live up to 70 years, which is quite impressive. But they do have a very, very slow reproductive cycle, which is one of their weaknesses. So a dugong does not reach maturity before 6 to 17 years, and it differs for females. Males, they mature earlier, but still it differs based on the environment around them. And it takes them up to 15 months, between 13 and 15 months of gestation period, which is quite long. And then the mother would feed the baby for 2 years before she will go into another cycle. So you can imagine, that's 3 years in total before a mother would consider going into another reproductive cycle. And this is why it's very slow. And during my presentation, you'll understand the impacts of this slow reproductive system. And just to let you know, internationally, on the red list, they are listed as vulnerable. But when it comes to the local assessment in the United Arab Emirates, they're actually near threatened, which means that more needs to be done when it comes to conserving dugongs. Where are they found? Dugongs are found across a very large area, to be honest. From the far east side of Australia, where New Caledonia is, and the other islands, all the way to the eastern coast of Africa. Across 48 countries, going through the Red Sea and the Arabian Gulf. So we're lucky that we are within that range states of the dugongs. But why should we care about them? I mean, you can see they have a vast land, they're everywhere. Why should we care? There are a few number of reasons that are quite sad that we need to care. The first is it's one of 4 sirenians that is left in the world. The other guys are these guys, the manatees. Just wanted to show them, because people usually mix them up. So there are 3 manatee species and only 1 dugong species left. The other dugong species that was considered recently extinct is the stellar sea cow, which went extinct in the 18th century because of a number of reasons, including poaching, hunting for fur, and for food. Another reason we should worry is the estimated population in that huge range is only 100,000, which is quite alarming, given the huge range that they are found in. And there are a number of populations around the world that have been declared functionally extinct. So functionally extinct means that the dugong population cannot reproduce enough to cover the losses, which will eventually mean that the population will collapse, and that will lead to regional or local extension of the population in that area. And overall, based on the red list, the worldwide population of dugongs is decreasing. So now this is why we should care. But what do we take from these dugongs? They're quite important. They play a very important ecological and conservation role. Dugongs help keep the balance when it comes to seagrass beds. They help in the nutrient cycle. They're very important species. We call them umbrella species because if you are protecting a dugong, you're protecting everything that falls under a dugong. That is the seagrass beds, seagrass habitats, and anything utilizing these seagrass beds. Because to protect and conserve dugongs, you need to conserve their habitats. And their habitats are important grounds, not only for dugongs, but for green turtles, for importantly commercial fish. And as you know, seagrasses are quite important when it comes to mitigating climate change. They act as blue carbon sinks. So in protecting the dugongs, we're protecting all of these important things. They're an indicator species. What does that mean? That means if there is a drop in the trend of dugongs, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with the seagrass beds. There's something wrong with the water quality. There's something wrong in the environment. So they're quite important. They're huge. You can see them. Any drop or any change in the trend is visible. So they're very important as health indicators when it comes to the marine biome. Another important thing, maybe not here, but internationally, and we've seen it in Egypt, we've seen it around different places, they're important when it comes to economic and culture aspects. Actually here, culturally, they are important, but economically, they do play a role, but not directly like in Egypt when it comes to ecotourism. So they're decreasing, they're important, and we need to do something about it. So what are we doing here in the UAE? I don't like to brag, but I have to. The UAE is leading when it comes to regional conservation of dugongs. Since 1999, we've had a law that specifically protects dugongs. We have included important dugong areas in all of our protected areas. So all of Abu Dhabi's marine protected areas have important areas for dugongs. And I don't know if you know this, but if you swim far off Saadiyat beach, you most probably will bump into a dugong because they do utilize the seagrass beds just off Saadiyat. Another important thing and something we are very proud of is we're one of the first Gulf states to sign the Dugong MOU. And we are also hosting the office here in Abu Dhabi, and we've been hosting it for a while. Like I said, dugong research started since the 90s. So we have a vast amount of data, over 15 years of studies focusing on the dugong population, on their health, on their threats, putting conservation programs and plans in place to be implemented for dugongs. And I think we are doing a good job, given that we have the second largest population in the world, and we have the biggest population here in the Arabian Gulf. Just to give you some numbers to wrap up, we have 3,000 dugongs in Abu Dhabi. So if you can imagine how tiny Abu Dhabi is compared to the range I've showed you. 3,000 of them are here. And we have, remember when I talked about the reproduction cycle? We have a 20% mother calf. This means that Abu Dhabi, the UAE, has managed to create an environment for dugongs where they would like to reproduce. It's a fact I didn't say before. Dugongs reproduce when they feel that they have food, when they feel that they're safe, when they know that this is the optimum environment for them to reproduce. And having a 20% mother-calf ratio just shows how well we're doing here. And again, like I said, we have drawn our protected areas around areas that are important for dugongs. And I think we did a good job, given that it's been done quite a long while ago. But we have found out that 83% of our dugongs fall within our protected areas. So we have Thediyat protected area that is known for its dugongs. We have the marine Mrawah biosphere, where we have a lot of our dugongs, and we have Ilyasat marine protected area, another hotspot for dugongs. And 83% of our dugongs fall within these MPAs. So I think the stats show that we're on the right track. But before I end, I want to show you something that is rare and something that is excites me. Unfortunately, Shamsa wasn't able to be here. She's the one who took this video. Let's see if anyone from the crowd would know what's special about this video. So I said, a dugong gives birth to one calf. She has twins. Thank you very much.
All right. Second part of the event now, we will be focusing on one dugong, and his name is Malqout. As I said, quite a character and quite a journey he had. We are very, very pleased to be able to share with you that journey from its really beginning with the actors that helped him along the way. They will be coming on stage just in a few moments, but I wanted to show some images of him when he was rescued and more recent images. So we will be showing you a short video that EAD, the Environment Agency Abu Dhabi, prepared. We watch that, and then we come back on stage with a lot of questions, and then it will be your turn to ask questions as well. So if we want to put the video on, thank you.
When we first found Malqout, he was attached to a pole, which we think he believes is his mother, because baby dugongs usually swim very close to their mothers. When we got in the water with Malqout, he moved away from the pole, getting attached to us, thinking that we are his mother. The Environment Agency, alongside its partners, have been working tirelessly in rescuing and rehabilitating wildlife around Abu Dhabi. Malqout is just another successful story that we can add to our successes in rescue and rehabilitation.
During the first 2 to 3 years of a dugong's life, it is very critical that they remain with their mother to learn how to survive in the wild. And because Malqout was rescued at a very early stage, he does not have the necessary tools to learn that. When he was rescued, the team at EAD saw that he was suffering from malnutrition as well as dehydration, which is why, in association with our consultants, we deemed it was necessary that he receive round-the-clock supervision as well as veterinary care. Since Malqout was showing great signs of progress and he was also growing in size, it was necessary to move him to a bigger facility as well as a more complex habitat, which is why we partnered with SeaWorld Research and Rescue, because they have the facility as well as the necessary specialized people that can give him the necessary care.
Malquout's transport actually started weeks before he saw the inside of a truck through the training from the folks at Worldwide Zoo Consultants at SeaWorld Abu Dhabi. They trained him and desensitized him to voluntarily swim inside of a stretcher where he could carefully be brought up, placed inside the truck.
One of my fondest memories of Malquout was spending 24 hours a day in the pool with him for the first 6 months of his life. I'm really surprised I haven't grown any flippers or fins. Another very proud moment that I had is seeing Malquout arrive at SeaWorld and being lowered into his habitat here at this beautiful and wonderful facility.
During the development and construction for SeaWorld Yas Island, Abu Dhabi, we were given information on a rescued and rehabilitated dugong that was in the process of being cared for here in the UAE. Malquout was a very special animal due to the fact that very few dugongs have been rescued and rehabilitated in the history of marine animal care. So we needed to make sure that we were going to do things the right way. We followed Malquout's path along working with the Environmental Agency Abu Dhabi to make sure that we were doing the right work on design here at SeaWorld Yas Island Abu Dhabi to make sure that the long-time home for him was exactly what he needed.
Dugongs are a very understudied population in the natural world. Having Malquout here to be able to study and learn how his physiology works and how to care for him is only going to help natural populations. Our animal care specialists are here around the clock to care for Malquout and to observe him. One of the key things we're looking for is how he acclimates into this environment so that we can continue to move him into more dynamic habitats, providing him more space and more unique opportunities to grow.
Malqout will give us a glimpse about dugong ecology, a knowledge we were not able to collect from wild dugongs.
Malqout's success story is a testament on how local and international organizations can come together to protect and preserve our environment.
We are very, very lucky to be able to give a home to Malquout here at SeaWorld Yas Island Abu Dhabi. We also have a vast array of experts, whether they're going to be veterinary sciences, whether it's going to be nutrition, whether it's going to be animal care and behavior, whether it's going to be conservation. All of those people will get a chance to interact with Malquout, make sure that his life is very, very healthy and he's enriched and he has everything that he possibly needs.
Working with the EAD and learning about Malquout has already taught us so much, and we can't wait to see what we continue to learn about him that helps us save this species in the future.
I wish Malquout everything of the best, along with Environment Agency Abu Dhabi, and we will remain constantly available to support and ensure that the transition is in his best interest and he continues to thrive as is.
The team at EAD will continue monitoring Malqout, checking up on his status, on his health, to make sure that he is getting the best care possible. While doing that, we will continue developing a plan for Malqout and his future based on how he is reacting and how his situation is. And we're so happy to say that EAD, through its partners, have been able to make a change in wildlife rescue.
All right, now I'm gonna ask Metha to come back on stage. You know her already, so I'm not gonna introduce her. And then I will ask Dr. Paola Marron to come on stage. Dr. Paola is the Senior Veterinarian Manager for Worldwide Zoo Consultant. She has over 19 years of experience in marine mammal care, including extensive involvement in rehabilitation efforts with marine mammals, including various dugongs. And she played a crucial role in the successful rehabilitation of Malqout. So come on stage. Here, you can choose a seat. And then I will ask Jonathan Diaz as well to come on stage. And Jonathan is the Senior Manager of Rescue at the YAS SeaWorld Research and Rescue Center. Jonathan has been with SeaWorld for 21 years and for SeaWorld Abu Dhabi for maybe 3 years now. He spent time in Florida and California before coming here to Abu Dhabi. And throughout his time at SeaWorld, he has rescued a wide variety of animals ranging from seabirds and pinnipeds to manatees. And Jonathan and his team are responsible for the day-to-day care for Malqout at SeaWorld Abu Dhabi. All right, I'm gonna sit over there and I'm gonna ask them questions. Sorry. Is it working? Is it working? Can you hear me? Okay, great, thank you. All right, what we are gonna do, it's just, I will ask question first so that we cover as much as we can just with that starting discussion, and then I will let you ask your question, okay? And I wanted to start with Metha, of course. And starting with the start, who called? How did you hear about Malqout, and what was the first moment of that rescue operation?
So, like I said, we have in the Environment Agency a number of protected areas that is managed by the team. And we have rangers out on these protected areas that patrol and monitor these areas throughout the day. And after one of the storms that hit in the Dhafra region, they found the calf all alone. And they went out and scouted the area for a mother, for a herd, for anything, and they could not find anything. And Malqout, like you saw in the video, kept hiding around that pole, looking at that pole, thinking that that pole is where it felt safest. And the team of the specialists, the team that I'm part of, got a call from the rangers and was asked to come in and assess this calf because he looked different. If you've noticed in the video, Malqout had a very protruding skull. His neck was very small, very thin. He was off color. He didn't look like a dugong. The color was, his body was too dark, his back was too white. So the rangers noticed that he didn't look okay. And the team mobilized. We were lucky, we were close to the area when we got the call, so it took us 20 minutes to reach him. And by boat, we went to the area that he was at. And from the first initial visual assessment, we noticed that he had severe malnutrition and severe dehydration. And we actually had one of the CMS employees with us to help us because she has experienced rescue previously with Thailand and in Indonesia, so there is some background of rescue there. And from there, we talked to our partners, trying to find out who can do what, because this is a very rare thing to happen. And we were lucky that Tommy and the team was here, and that was the start of an amazing story.
Yes, amazing story indeed. And then, obviously, Paola, this is when you came into play. And so, can you tell us about what you saw when you first saw Malqout and what you did. What was your assessment and your first treatment?
So it was on the 29th of July 2019. So our CEO from Worldwide Zoo, they received a call, Tommy Wilkin, and trying to get support from our team to get the rescue and rehabilitation of these dugong calves. So he, of course, he's very passionate about animals, accept the call, and then get a team together, some equipment, and then they went to the site to get the dugong calf into a private facility where we were able to control the environment, the water quality, the water temperature. And from there we started to put a plan together for the rehabilitation of Malqout.
And so what was the first treatment you did, or treatment or care, or,
Yeah, so as she mentioned, when it arrived to this facility, what we first did was a complete physical evaluation. We have to make sure that it doesn't have any wounds or any signs of trauma that will be life-threatening. After that, we started to collect biological samples. We collected blood, fecal sample, gastric sample, just to assess his general medical condition, and based on that, do a plan of the rehabilitation and what we will need it. So indeed, was very dehydrated, was very emaciated. His body condition was very poor. So we decided to start in a prophylactic antibiotic treatment. And from there, start to rehydrate him, which was quite a challenge. Because as you know, dogs and cats, you just bring it to the vet. On humans, you just put an IV, right? And start to giving fluids through the IV, which is quite straightforward, and you can do it through a long period of time. But in marine mammals in general and in dugongs, that is not practical. You cannot do that. So we have to do the hydration orally. So we put a gastric tube into the mouth all the way to the stomach, multiple times a day to be able to hydrate him. And from there, we have to be monitoring the glucose very closely, the body temperature very closely, and adjust his needs, because it was very critical the first few weeks. The first 6 months, I think we spent in the water like all the time, 24/7, there was a team looking for him.
6 months?
Yes. The first 6 months, very, very intensive. And it seems that it's very easy, but he was in life-threatening like every single month. Like to me, was very, very stressful. And to see this is really, it's great.
One of the most important things that they managed to do is get the milk formula right. That was one of the biggest challenges. I remember the milk formula wasn't easy. It wasn't normal milk. It was, Tommy and the team did an amazing job to find the correct formula for the milk. Because, like I said at the beginning, 2 years. The dugong needs its mother's milk for 2 years. And it's critical for his growth. And if they didn't get the right mix, it wouldn't have been something so simple, but too complex.
Because, of course, it's not the milk that from a dugong. So we try to simulate different milks that have been used in different marine mammals, from dolphins, from manatees, and with the resources that we have it around the area. Then we introduce the milk. He had so many issues with constipation, mild digestion. So it was on and off for this trouble. Yeah.
So would you say that the milk formula and the nutrition was the main challenge you faced during those first 2 years of his life? Or?
I think the very first problem was to feed him. Because, and as you can see on the skull that we have here of a dugong, the anatomy of the mouth of a dugong is very different, for example, to a manatee. So there is a lot of well-known information about manatees, rescues and rehabilitation, and you just give the bottle, and usually they take it very well, and they drink the milk. But in dugongs, it's a very different story. They are not able to drink, at least not with that method, the same amount or a good amount, a proper amount. So we needed to, still with the same way we did the hydration, but with the milk, feeding him every 3 to 4 hours. So that's hard job, yes. And of course, the constant issue with the formula, so was constant thing we start with a very diluted formula and then start to concentrate the formula and monitor how he was doing with the formula. Then he suffered from constipation, then we had to reduce again the formula, and until we say, okay, we have to get him to eat solid food, otherwise he will not make it. So we started to introduce small amount of seagrass. He was nibbling, which they do since they were very young, but we had to hurry up him to eat more solid food than the milk. So it was difficult to get also the seagrass because someone has to go to the sea, right, and get the seagrass and has to be fresh and has to be daily. So we started to introduce lettuce and slowly increase the amount of lettuce that he can eat and just supplement with a small amount of milk. So, yeah.
And I guess one question that I would add to that is that can you just tell everyone, because maybe not everyone is aware of that, can you explain how difficult it is to rescue dugongs? I mean, how little has been done and successfully?
Yeah, so I have been lucky enough to be able to work with multiple dugong calves in different parts of Southeast Asia. And so far, Malqout has been my only successful story. Yeah, a combination of factors, a combination of great team, a great support for the environmental agency. He had everything that he needed, so there was no question for that. But then you need, for them to drink, to be able to drink, that's the worst thing that you need to encounter and to get it right. Then the constant diseases that they can get through the term. He got respiratory infection, gastrointestinal infections, and there is not much medical information on how to treat that. So it's like trial and error. So my previous experience, it helped me a lot to know what it works and what it doesn't. And yeah, he was lucky enough to have the team and have the expertise, and yeah.
Brilliant. And obviously, the next question is that when you pass on all those critical first 2 years, I guess, Metha, can you explain why and Malqout was deemed not able to go back to the wild?
So, like my colleague Dr. Hind mentioned in the video, Malqout did not live with a mother. So he was not taught how to survive in the wild. That's the first reason it's going to be difficult to reintroduce him. The second thing is he has been living in a very sterile environment all his life. So that means that he does not have the gut bacteria. Yeah, I'm not a vet, but I can tell you that he doesn't have that gut bacteria and the immunity that will help him survive properly in the wild. And from previous cases, dugongs don't do, captive dugongs don't do well in the wild for a number of reasons. They don't know how to be in vast areas. They haven't been, maybe they've been introduced too hastily. Some of them don't even know how to eat. There's one incident that a dugong was released and he was monitored. He didn't know how to eat. So it's quite tricky. I won't say impossible, but it's a very tricky process that might need years to even look at.
All right, thanks. So his next stage on life was when he arrived here in this center and then went to his new and great home in SeaWorld Abu Dhabi. Jonathan, can you tell us how the team prepared for that move? How long did it take and what did you do?
Sure. So we were very excited that Malqout was coming, and we had a long list of things that we were going to go through. But the two things that really stand out the most to me are one, and I'm going to name drop a little bit because I do think these people deserve recognition for Malqout's care moving forward at SeaWorld. We had Georgina Cox and Becky Bissett join Malqout's facility for about a month and a half, and really learn his day-to-day. What does it take to care for Malqout on a daily basis? So anything from food prep to daily sessions to what types of enrichment can we offer Malqout. And then the second thing is myself and Scott McCoy went out to Australia to meet with the team that cares for Pig, who is a male dugong that they have out there at Sydney Sea Life Aquarium. He's an adult, and so what we learned is kind of the long-term care. What's the care going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What challenges did they encounter, and how did they overcome those? So we were able to take that knowledge from the baseline that was established with Malquot, and then the long-term care of pig, and then bring that back to really prepare for Malquot's arrival. And once he arrived, we really had a couple of goals. One, just make sure he's comfortable with his new environment. For the first few years of his life, he had his home. Now we're moving him to a new one. Not sure how many people got a chance to see some of the pools on this overlook, but when he first arrived, we had him in our leftmost octagon-shaped pool. What we did is we set the depth at a depth that he was very comfortable with. And we'll talk about the habitat he's in now, but it's a little bit deeper. So over the first couple of weeks, we just kind of increased the depth, made sure he was comfortable with that new piece of environment. And then once we knew he was comfortable, then we wanted him to get comfortable with change. He was going to experience a lot of change in that habitat, and we wanted him to be ready for that.
Brilliant. And can you tell us about his new home?
Yeah, absolutely. So
where he is now?
Speaking of the habitat, what Malquot was going to experience before moving out there is fish. So many fish. If you haven't been out to the Abu Dhabi Ocean, hundreds of fish of local species that can be found, as well as a hawksbill sea turtle and a blotched ray, which is a very large ray. So to take an animal that hadn't seen very much and then to put them immediately into that environment, it'd be very jarring. So what we did is we kind of took it very slowly, and we took it at Malquot's pace. So once we were comfortable with him in that octagon pool, we moved him over into that large oblong pool. Nice amount of depth. And then we started introducing new species. When we had gone to Australia, we saw that the fish that lived with pig would eat his lettuce all the time. And they'd be eating right around his face. And immediately, we knew we'd have to get Malquot used to that. So we introduced 50 to 100 small fish, and they immediately went to his food. Malquot, just another day for him. What I can't speak to enough is how adaptable Malquot was and how he is right now. Any kind of change that we would throw at him barely fazed him. Within a few minutes, he'd be back to eating. So once we had added those fish, then we added a couple of zebra sharks. We wanted something larger, something that had a lot of movement involved with it, because we knew that the blotched ray would be out there, as well as the hawksbill. So to give you an idea of the habitat, if you haven't seen it, holds about 1.7 million liters of water, about 5 meters in depth. But it's really, again, what's inside of that water with the fish and the other animals that makes it special. We also have a medical pool that can be seen, really throughout the day, and it's an area that's very important for his care, and it's an area that we focused very heavily on getting him comfortable with. We really want our animals to be active participants in their own healthcare, and having this medical pool with a raising floor really helps us do that, especially as Malquot gets bigger. We're hoping he'll get to that 300 kilogram, 400 kilogram size. He's going to get big, and so having this type of facility is going to be really helpful for that long-term care.
Great, thanks. Okay, I have 2 more questions, and then we'll go to you. Just quickly, Maitha, can you explain as well, because this is what we've seen in the video, how Malquot can help us understanding more of his own species?
I think from day one, Malqout was teaching us lessons, starting with the feeding, starting with the little scares he was giving us. All of this would help in veterinary care for any rescued dugong. So from the veterinarian side of things, we learned a lot from Malqout. Tommy and the team has documented everything from growth that will give us as ecologists and scientists an understanding of how they grow, the pace they grow in, the sizes, their different life stages. And a little is known about dugongs. And it's difficult to study them in the wild, especially here, because they're not very approachable. So Malqout gives us that opportunity to understand. I doubt that he's reached maturity. But we will see when he reaches maturity, and we will have that documented properly when a male dugong of the Arabian Gulf reaches maturity, which is very important when it comes to our work, when it comes to conservation. Understanding how he reacts with other species is also important. So these are some of the things. There's something exciting we did with Tommy about. If it's fine to talk about it, the genome. So they did an amazing job. For the first time, an Emirati dugong has been mapped on the genome. So it's a lot of firsts with Malqout started, and I'm sure we'll continue with the team here at SeaWorld.
Yeah, brilliant. And well, I guess it's same kind of question, but on the rescue side of the story. So how Malqout can help for the future?
So as I told, it was not my first dugong. So previous experiences have taught me a lot, and I knew what not to do for my previous experiences, and they taught me a lot. And then I know now what it really works and what has to be done when we encounter another dugong. What is the way of doing the things? So I think it is super, super important that we know now, how to do it. Yeah.
Thanks. Just last question for you, Jonathan. What's the weight of Malqout just now?
Malqout has gained about 20 kilograms over this past year with us. So he's a hefty boy, sitting at just over 100 kilograms.
He was 21.
So, and he was
21 kilos.
21 when he was rescued.
Yes.
Amazing. All right. Time for question. Please raise your hand. Yes, Tagrid. Can we have a microphone here?
First of all, congratulations on the successful story. My question is, how do you envision the role of community in rescue? And my second question is, what is the danger of having dugongs in danger?
For you? Yeah. Great.
So the community actually plays a very big role when it comes to rescue, and not only dugongs, but also marine turtles. A lot of our rescues come actually from the public. If you see anything, any wild animal in distress, if you call up the number of Abu Dhabi government, we get the call and we mobilize a team. The public is our eyes, SeaWorld's eyes, is the rescue network's eyes to move. We only can see so much, and our rangers can only see so much. A lot of the communities here on Yas, a lot of the communities on Thediyat are very proactive, and anyone and everyone can be as proactive. On your second question, if dugongs are dangerous, they are, like I said from the beginning, all they want to do is eat. They just want to eat their seagrass and leave them in peace. And they're very sketches, and they will sketch. They will يعني إذا قربتي منه بيروح ما بيجيش وروح يتروع منك. They are afraid of us more than we're afraid of them. So there's no danger.
And I think Tagrid meant as well what would be the danger to lose them. Yeah, this is just if they disappear completely.
There's a lot of danger to lose the dugongs. Like I said in the beginning, we have a lot of benefits from the dugongs. They are umbrella species. They tell us they're like the first line of defense. They tell us if something's wrong with the habitats or with the water quality. So from that perspective, they are an indicator species for us to the health of the environment or the health of the marine environment. And the health of the marine environment is a reflection to what our health is. If our environment is not healthy, we will end up becoming not healthy. So they are a very important indicator. And also, they help regulate the seagrass beds. They're very important for the seagrass beds, for the nutritional cycle of the seagrass beds. If dugongs were not there, the seagrass beds will not be as lush, as effective, and as act as the carbon sinks they are today, because the dugongs help recycle and renutrient these seagrass beds. From a cultural perspective, I think, and a historical perspective, in the UAE and as Emiratis, we have to keep in mind that this environment and these species and these habitats are the reason our forefathers were able to survive here. And it is just right, and I think it's mandatory for us to preserve and protect what was once the only source of food and supplies for our forefathers.
Thank you.
Thanks. Another question? We're gonna go just quickly. Then after over there.
Hello, my name is Mohammed Ran Ahmed. I'm 13 years old. Earlier you mentioned the environmental effects, the effects of the environment on dugongs. You didn't, I was wondering, what would the last SeaWorld talk was about algae blooms. So how would algae blooms affect dugongs?
I like that, the link between the two talks. Yes, what is the impact of algal blooms on dugongs? Do you want to answer that?
Until today, we have not seen an effect of algal blooms on dugongs, but correct me if I'm wrong, there is an effect of algal blooms on manatees, and it's been recorded, I think, in Florida.
Yeah. Yes. The past few years have been very rough for manatees, especially because of algae blooms. The SeaWorld rescue team out there has seen the number of rescues climb from 20, 30 a year to 50, 60 a year because of those algae blooms.
So, yeah, didn't happen yet, but that's
a great question.
Oh, yeah, we did. This here, and then we'll move to you, Leila, over there.
Hello, my name is Alicia. So at my school, I go to Eco Club and me and my friend Maria. What should I tell my eco teacher about dugongs?
Wow, this is a nice question. Mesa, you want to answer this one? Lauren, would you have anything to say to that? And then we come back to Mesa. Yeah.
What should I tell my teacher at Eco Club about dugongs?
No? Oh, yeah. It was working.
Hello? Yeah. Yes, thank you very much for that very good question. I think it would be a good idea, maybe you could tell your teacher that dugongs they are very threatened at a global level. So everybody needs to come together to do something to change that. So at our level, we could also be careful when we go to the beach and, for example, riding jet skis. We need to be very careful because the motors can cut dugongs and then that wouldn't go very well. So that's a very practical thing that we can do when we go on holidays or here when we're on beaches. But in general, it's important to pass along the message that these species need our help, and anything we can do and raise attention to them is only good for them.
Nice. Mesa, you want to add anything to that?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No? All right. I promise going over there. Leila. Yes. And then.
Thank you so much for this really nice talk. So we talked about Malquot's adaptability, with the environment in general. I was wondering if dugongs in general, there was any studies on their adaptability, and if in the future we can see them adapt to, for example, noise pollution or human effects on their environment that might endanger them, or if we could do anything to help them adapt to these dangers in general.
Mehta? The dugongs are quite adaptable, but keep in mind that these are mobile species. If they're not happy here, they will move. And this is their coping mechanism, I guess. Dugongs care mainly for their main food source. You keep in mind, they only eat seagrass, but they reach 400 kilograms. So you can imagine how much seagrass they need to eat. So to them, it's key to make sure that their habitat has seagrass. They also need to feel safe. We don't have the problem of predation yet in the UAE or in Abu Dhabi. So they're happy here. But God forbid something happens to the seagrass beds, there is no adaptation that can be done for the dugongs to keep them here if their food's not here. So I think the bottom line is they're mobile animals. They're mobile. If they're not happy here, they're going to move. They're not going to adapt to something that's not fit for them.
Thanks. I had another question in the back over there. And we'll go. Yeah.
Hi,
We hear you. Go ahead.
She wanted to ask manatees. Okay. She wanted to ask, there's some parts in America that you can't touch manatees and you can't interact with them. Are laws like that here, and also are dugongs as friendly as manatees?
Okay, for the regulation.
So it is very common that we see dugongs and manatees like together, and we just put them in the same bag and say it's the same thing. But actually, in character, they are quite different. Dugongs, I think, are more friendly, more curious. Manatees are just eating, and if you are around, and they will not really look at you that much. But I feel dugongs, they are more interactive, they are friendly, and at least Malqout enjoys company. Yeah.
If we take just Malqout in particular, he finds people so reinforcing. He wants to be around people. You should go to the tunnel and see him just staring down and just watching people kind of just go front. We've caught him watching our pearl dive show. He just gets a kick out of being around people, and it's just so interesting to see him versus manatees that I've worked with in the past. So yes, they do tend to be very curious.
And Mehta, is there any regulation or just obviously a recommendation to not touch dugong in the wild? That for sure, I guess. But go ahead.
For your own safety and for the dugong safety, it is better not to interact closely with all marine wildlife. I don't know if you guys got hit by the tail of Malqout. That's quite painful. That's a very painful whip by the tail. So legally, it's not okay to harass wildlife, whatever they are.
But I'm talking about under human care, not on the wild. Yeah, the ones on the wild, I think they are not. Yeah, they are eating, as you say. Yes.
They're not timid. They're actually they really don't like to be around people. The wild ones. They want to leave the area once they feel that you're around.
Yeah.
That's why it's very hard to see them. Yeah. I had Mata over there. Yes, I'm going to come to you.
Hello. I would just like to ask, do we have any data on possible migration throughout the Gulf of dugongs? I mean, cross-border, or if populations here can be found as far as Kuwait or Bahrain, for example?
Very good question.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's a really good question. So the dugong population in the Arabian Gulf is found from, let's say, Jabal Ali, all the way to Hwar Island, on the other side of Qatar and Bahrain. The highest concentration today is found actually in Bahrain. In highest concentration per square meter is found in Bahrain. And there's an interesting study that's been released about that by Dr. Abdel Qadir, if you're interested in reading it. When it comes to migration patterns of dugongs, we have tagged dugongs, but because of the characteristics of the Arabian Gulf's water, the tethers that are supposed to stay on a dugong for 6 to 10 months dissolved in less than a month. So the data was not enough to understand their movement. But it's safe to say that if there is any seagrass patches in the areas that are close to the borders, most probably they'll be swimming back and forth, grazing on these seagrass beds.
Thank you.
All right. I'll take 2 more questions. And I can see Shamsa here. Sorry. Shamsa is here. Yes. And then I'll move to the back. Yes. 2 more questions and then...
A good point about the tags. Maybe SeaWorld can be our wasta with wildlife computers. I have a question. Do you think killer whales will be an issue in the future?
Like in the wild, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, killer whales are a threatened species, of course. They have lots of issues right now of trying to find food. They are also migratory species, some of them. So, yeah. What do you mean in like killer whales in relate with the dugongs, or? I don't think so.
I do believe that somewhat recently there was some footage of, orcas and dugongs interacting. Now, if that interaction was hunting, I don't know we could say that definitively, but it definitely looked to be of that nature. And so it's not something that happens commonly or often, but that's not to say it can't or won't happen.
I think at the rate that killer whales are coming into the Gulf, it's not alarming if they decide to have a cake once.
They will find the yummy,
That's the problem with killer whales. They're super smart. If they find a lazy, easy meal, that's going to become their favorite.
I thought your team dugong.
I am team nature. But in our reality, as we know, sometimes killer whales are either fish-eating pods or marine mammal-eating pods. So let's hope that the pods that keep coming in are just fish pods.
Thanks. Right, you have your microphone.
My name is Amelia. I'm 10. I was gonna ask, the mum that had the twin dugongs, was that really rare? And was there something special about the water or where they lived to make that happen?
Yes. This is a question. Great.
That's a very good question. I think it's genetics, just like in humans. If you have the genetic of twins, you will, inshallah, have twins, if it's in the family. But that's a very good question, because in the same area, 7 years later, we encountered another mother with twins. So it's either she's a very lucky mother or unlucky. Don't know which. Or it's a genetic deformation in that population. Not a deformation, it's a blessing in that population.
They could be adopting the calf as well from other mother, which could be the
that's another
case.
That's another case. In all wildlife, you will see the sisters. Usually, the sisters would adopt each other's offspring if something happens to a sister. It's something maternal.
They take turns.
Yeah.
All right. I'm sure there was a lot more questions, but we will have to stop here. And I'm sure the speakers will stay around. If you have more questions, come over directly. Thank you so much for coming tonight. It was a very nice evening. Thank you so much to the speakers. Really, this was, we could go on for hours. So I'm sure we will have more talk about dugong in the near future. Just be aware that next talk is in May, on the 16th of May, and it's another big event for us here. We will have Dr. John Bird coming here talking about his book, A Natural History of the Emirates, and he will have also, he will be able to sign the books, and we will have books for you if you come with your books, or we can get a book for you at the event, and he can sign the books as well. So 16th of May, please be aware. Thanks a lot. Bye.